They told us Earth was primitive, fragile, a perfect target for training drills. They were wrong. The moment we entered their system, the trap closed. What if the most underestimated planet in the galaxy was hiding stolen alien tech, elite shock troops, and a secret war against something far more terrifying than us? Before we dive into the story of deception, alien warfare, and Earth's terrifying secret, make sure you're subscribed, because in this galaxy, what you don't know can get you conquered. Ready? Let's begin. You've got to be joking, I muttered, glaring at the luminous map suspended above command console. This is the species we're supposed to invade? The image was almost laughable. Tiny orbital satellites, sporadic planetary stations, and a blue-green world barely clinging to its technological adolescence. Fleet Marshal Korvax didn't even bother to hide his disdain. His dermal plates shimmer with irritation. The Varnathi version of an eye roll. Exactly why the Overcouncil chose them, Lieutenant Illyra, he said, slicing his tri-clawed hand through the image of the planet, which the natives called Earth. They're just developed enough to resist, but still primitive. A perfect live-fire simulation. I wasn't convinced. Not even close. Something about the mission briefing turned both of my digestive cores, the joy of Varnathi biology, into whirlpools of dread. With respect, Marshal, I said cautiously, I've been decrypting their transmissions. These humans, they don't follow logic. Their behavior patterns are erratic, reckless. Korvax chuckled. A harsh, scraping sound like stone grinding metal. A few younger officers stiffened instinctively. Unstable? Perhaps. Dangerous? Hardly. They're clever apes with delusions of grandeur. Their warfare is primitive. No plasma tech. No field dampeners. No faster-than-light capability. Just kinetic slugs and glorified fireworks. The room quieted as Korvax enlarged a holographic image, casting flickers of red over Earth's weapons facilities and military zones. The operation is straightforward, he said coldly. We breach their star system, assert orbital control, and descend on strategic sites. Within 2 rotations of their planet, we'll have full compliance. He paused for effect. It's ideal for blooding our new recruits, authentic resistance without real danger. Then Commander Zarin, our intelligence chief, spoke up, always too meticulous to stay silent. There is one variable, he said, shifting uneasily. Their elite human units, their special forces, have demonstrated tactics beyond baseline projections, possibly troublesome. Korvax brushed it off without a blink. Our infantry is trained for far worse. This is a drill, not a war. The outcome is predetermined. But I couldn't exorcise the tension coiled in my gut. Something didn't sit right. What about their legacy of violence? I asked. They've been at war with each other since before written history. Not for land or survival, but ideology, pride, beliefs. Their conflict isn't just strategic. It's cultural. Korvax gave a dismissive grunt. Every species looks fierce when fighting its own kind, but stack them against a real military force. He let the silence answer. They crumble. Orders were distributed. Invasion zones mapped. A junior tactician with barely a full cycle of field command, was assigned a section of the Northern Hemisphere, what the humans called North America. Intel marked it as one of their strongholds, brimming with defense networks and advanced units. Just as I turned to leave, Korvax called out, Lieutenant Illyra. As I turned to leave, Korvax's voice followed me. I know your instincts scream caution, Illyra, but that's why we're here, to sharpen theory into real combat instinct. The humans will push back, just enough to make warriors out of recruits. I gave him a respectful nod. Yes, Marshal. And Illyra, his tone softened slightly. Try not to wear that grim expression. The soldiers read your face more than the battle maps. I forced my facial ridges into something resembling calm, false confidence cloaked in bone, and left for my quarters to prepare for what will become my first true campaign. 3 solar spans later, our fleet tore through subspace and emerged into the distant shadows of the Sol system. 20 warships, each a floating fortress, escorted by dropships, siege carriers, and precision strike platforms. Enough might to level entire continents. Not that destruction was the goal. After all, one cannot teach war on a smoldering grave. Cloaking systems active, reported Nav Officer Rel. We are passing unnoticed through their outer defenses. Any indication they've picked up our presence? I asked, eyes on the glimmering tactical array. Negative, she replied. Their sensor web is decades behind. We are ghosts in their night sky. I watched as we slipped silently past massive gas giants and barren moons. A few of the outer worlds held feeble mining outposts, more ambition than infrastructure. Humanity had focused its progress inward, not out. Commence orbital trajectory adjustment, Rel announced. Timed atmospheric breach. 6 hours. The bridge moved with quiet purpose. I used the window to recheck my incursion orders. Our drop zone was a military-dense zone on the northern continent, what they called North America. One name stood out in the reports, Fort Ironvale, a fortress housing their elite war cadre. Lieutenant, come Officer Vesh called out, you want to see this. I moved her console. A stream of garbled audio buzzed across the screen, human command frequencies. They've seen us, she said, her voice taut with disbelief. Don't ask how, but they know we're here. That couldn't be. Our stealth field was generations ahead of anything they could even imagine. Are you certain? She nodded. Multiple encrypted bands just activated. Their military is mobilizing. I turned back to command node, slicing into the direct relay to Marshal Korvax's flagship. They've detected our presence. I recommend advancing the timeline. There was a pause. Static. Then his voice, clipped and calm, impossible. They don't possess the tools. Yet they are mobilizing. I recommend immediate escalation. Another beat of silence. Then, approved, initiate phase 1. Let's see what their courage looks like under pressure. The fleet scattered, descending like hawks into low orbit above their major strongholds. My ship, the Wraith Caller, settled over their eastern seaboard, directly above Ironvale. Surface defenses? I asked Weapons Officer Krail. Scattered. Weak. Nothing significant. Surface munitions consist of crude missiles and a scatter of orbital sentries, Krail reported. Nothing strong enough to scratch our shielding. Prepare the drop units. I ordered. First wave deploys in 30 minutes. The crew confirmed with practiced efficiency. Despite the unease gnawing at me, I couldn't deny the thrills surging through my veins. For the first time, this was real, not a war game. I was about to command an actual planetary strike, even if it was meant to be a glorified drill. Then Vesh's voice snapped to the hum of quiet readiness. Multiple launches detected from the surface. Defense missiles? I asked, more curious than alarmed. No, that's the strange part, she said, hesitating. They're drop pods. Hundreds of them. I froze. That couldn't be right. Run that again. They don't have orbital insertion units. Intel was clear. The tactical display rippled. Updating in real time, a swarm of fast-moving signatures was rising from the planet's surface, climbing straight toward our fleet. Incoming transmission, Vesh announced, barely hiding the edge in her voice. It's from the humans. Let's hear it. The comm screen shimmered to life. A human male appeared, by their biological markers, probably middle-aged, cropped gray hair, battle-worn features, steely eyes. Attention unidentified vessels, he said, voice calm but unmistakably commanding. I am General Marcus Hale of the Earth Defense Front. You are trespassing in protected Terran space. You have 60 seconds to retreat, or we will engage with lethal force. I stared, stunned. Earth Defense Front? That organization wasn't in any of our intelligence archives. Scan those pods. I barked. What exactly are we looking at? Krail's fingers danced across his panel. His faceplates paled. They're manned. Each pod contains one human operative. Combat armor. Armed with systems I can't even fully identify. That's not possible, I whispered. They aren't capable of this. Vesh's voice cracked in alarm. They're adjusting trajectory. They're locking onto our ships. Shields to maximum. I shouted, activate all defense turrets. But we were already too late. The first barrage of human pods collided with our vessel, slamming into the hull with magnetic anchors that locked them in place like leeches. The bridge shuddered. Multiple hull breaches, cried the damaged chief. Sectors 7 through 12 compromised. They're cutting through. Deploy security teams to all breach points. I drew my sidearm, heart pounding. How many have made it inside? 53 confirmed intruders, Krail said, his voice tight. They're moving through the corridors in coordinated assault patterns. I hit the ship-wide alert. All crew battle stations. We are under attack. This is not a drill. Gunfire echoed beyond the command deck. Security feeds showed human soldiers advancing through our ship, armored, disciplined, relentless. They moved like predators. Lieutenant! Vesh called out, nearly shouting. Fleet-wide alerts. Every ship is experiencing boarders. It's a full-scale counterstrike. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These humans, they weren't the target practice we'd been promised. They were predators. They were supposed to be underdeveloped, soft targets, nothing more than live targets for combat training simulations. Instead, they were storming our warships like they'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Status of the human infiltrators. I snapped, "They've seized main engineering," shouted Chief Varn across the comm channel. "Our technicians are either neutralized or restrained. They're advancing toward the command deck." I turned, adrenaline pounding through my veins. Lock down the bridge. Seal every access corridor. Before the lockdown could complete, the doors behind us detonated in a burst of smoke and shrapnel. The blast wave staggered us. From a haze marched 3 humanoid figures, each clad in sleek, matte black exosuits glowing with pulsing azure cores. Their armor was unlike anything our analysts had ever reported. Streamlined and brutal, radiating menace. Their helmets were angular and featureless, hiding every expression, every weakness. Our defense team opened fire. Plasma bolts tore through the air, only to fizzle uselessly against the enemy's armor. Then the humans retaliated. Their weapons were not energy-based. They unleashed high-velocity projectiles that ripped through our guards with surgical brutality. In seconds, half my bridge crew lay motionless on the deck. I raised my sidearm out of instinct, already knowing it was futile. The lead figure stepped forward, weapon trained on my chest. Up close, I noticed a sigil emblazoned on their shoulder plate, a skull with wings descending through storm clouds. Beneath it, words in their language, orbital drop shock troopers. "Secure the bridge," the trooper ordered. Her voice buzzed slightly through her suit speaker. "Transfer all prisoners to holding. Command wants a vessel intact." Command? Their command? Despite everything, the question tumbled out of me. Who are you?" The soldier hesitated, then reached up and unlocked her helmet. With a hiss of pressure, it folded away to reveal a human female. Dark-eyed, calm, dangerous. "Captain Eliza Reeves," she said coolly. "7th Drop Regiment, Earth's Outer Defense Wing." Then she smirked. Actually smirked. "Welcome to Earth, strangers. Forgive the hospitality, or lack thereof. We're not fond of trespassers." I stared, speechless. "How? Your species wasn't supposed to have this level of technology. Our data. Your data's trash," she interrupted. "You're not the first to think Earth was easy prey, and we've been waiting for someone like you." Another human stepped onto the bridge, visor still lowered. "Captain," he said, Engine room is fully secured. The alien's faster-than-light core is untouched. Tech crew says it's compatible with our systems. Reeves nodded. Excellent. High command will want it intact. She turned toward her squad. What about the other vessels? 80% of their fleet has been captured or disabled, he replied. The rest are running, but Ironclad and Starblade are giving chase. I stood there, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These humans weren't just fighting back. They were commandeering our vessels, our cutting-edge warships, designed to overwhelm any resistance. You've made a terrible error, I said, summoning whatever remained of my composure. The Varnathi Dominion spans over 300 star systems. Once the Overcouncil learns of this, they'll send a real fleet. You won't stand a chance. Captain Reeves actually chuckled. That's exactly what the Krylak said. And the Tharn before them. She leaned in, her gaze steady and unflinching. Want to know where their fleets are now? Broken down, reverse engineered. Now part of ours. Your vessels will make fine additions to the Earth Defense Armada. My thoughts spiraled. Other civilizations had already attempted to conquer Earth? How had we missed this? Why weren't there any records? Why didn't we know? I demanded. Why weren't we warned about your true capabilities? Because we didn't want you to know, she said simply. Earth figured out long ago that the galaxy plays rough. So we played dumb. Let you think we were just noisy little mammals playing with toys. But while you watched our distractions, we were preparing, upgrading, taking tech from every superior species that tried to roll over us. She tapped her armor. This, based on Tharn exosuits. Your FTL drive, gonna help us tune our own systems. Every attempted invasion has made us stronger. Her words crashed into me with the weight of a collapsing star. This hadn't been a mission. It was a trap. A very old, very well-laid trap. Take the lieutenant to hold it with the others, Reeves ordered. Make sure our guests are treated well. They're going to be here a while. As I was escorted out, I caught one last look at the tactical display. What remained of our once-feared invasion fleet, flagships, carriers, destroyers, was being dismantled, disabled, claimed piece by piece. The same ships we had boasted were unstoppable, reduced to trophies. Tarak had been right about one thing. This was an educational deployment. The only mistake was assuming we'd be the ones teaching. Unfortunately, it seemed we were the ones taking notes, and I had the sickening sense that our lessons had just begun. The human containment facility defied all expectation. No grim cells, no crude restraints. Instead, I found myself in a spacious chamber with familiar faces, other Varnathi officers. Among them, Commander Korvax himself. His dermal ridges were coiled in fury, his pacing relentless. This is a violation, he snarled for what must have been the 10th time. An utter breach of all interstellar combat agreements. I laughed, a bitter, empty sound that echoed across the chamber. Several officers turned to stare. Combat agreements? I said quietly. We invaded their homeworld, Commander. I said quietly. I doubt they're concerned with protocols. Korvax halted mid-stride and spun to face me, his expression rigid with fury. Mind your tone, Lieutenant. This setback is temporary. The Dominion will dispatch a retrieval fleet the moment we miss our scheduled transmission. And they'll suffer the same fate we did, I replied, gesturing to the panoramic viewport, revealing a sprawling complex where human technicians were already dismantling our ships like scavengers carving apart prey. Look for yourself. They're harvesting our warcraft. Just then, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Reeves stepped inside, now wearing a sharply tailored formal uniform, her combat gear replaced by crisp authority. Behind her followed two more humans, an aging male with silver hair and a dark-skinned woman clad in a sleek analytical suit, data slates glowing in her hands. Good morning, Reeves said pleasantly, showing what humans call a smile. Hope your quarters are acceptable. Korvax's plates flared with indignation. You are unlawfully detaining military officers of the Varnathi Dominion. he growled. "This act constitutes war." The older man stepped forward. "Funny," he said, his voice gravelly. "That's exactly what we thought when your fleet broke into our system." He turned to me. "General Harlan Voss, Earth Defense Command. This is Dr. Nadia Patel, lead analyst for our Xenotech division." Patel examined us with focused curiosity. "Incredible structure," she murmured. "Dual circulatory system, subdermal armor plating. I'd estimate evolution on a high-mass world, possibly 1.3 Earth gravs." "Correct," I admitted before I could stop myself. Korvax shot me a look sharp enough to cut alloy. "We're not here for your dissection journal," he snapped. "We demand audience with your planetary leaders. Immediately. Our release must be negotiated." Reeves glanced at Voss, who merely smirked. "Negotiated?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Commander, you're not prisoners of war. You're educational assets." My stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" I asked, a coil of dread tightening inside me. "It means," said Patel, her tone clinical, "you're going to help us unlock the secrets of your technology, one way or another." Korvax straightened to his full imposing height, nearly 7 feet of hardened defiance. "Varnathi's soldiers are trained against all coercion. You'll learn nothing." Voss sighed, clearly unimpressed. "Always the same speech," he said. "Your Zarnith cousins said almost exactly the same thing." He turned to Reeves. "Show them." She tapped the control. The wall brightened into a holoscreen, and what it displayed drained the blood from my veins. Varnathi vessels. Not from our current fleet, but from older generations, now retrofitted and flying under Earth's banner. Modified, repainted, bearing the Earth Defense crest, but unmistakably ours. "This can't be," Korvax choked. "We've never encountered Earth before." Patel didn't even look up from her tablet. "Of course you haven't," she said. "We're very thorough. The few we send back, memory wiped, reintegrated. The rest we keep, and your people chalk it up to engine failure. Or piracy. Return." I latched onto the word like it was oxygen. "You send prisoners back?" Captain Reeves gave a solemn nod. "Most of them, yes. Once we've learned what we need and carefully edited their memories. We're not monsters, Lieutenant, just survivors. In a universe that keeps throwing unexpected visitors our way." General Voss stepped beside the window, motioning toward the vast industrial sprawl outside. "For over 3 centuries, Earth has been visited by off-world species. Some curious, some hostile. It didn't take long for us to realize we were outgunned, but we had one decisive edge." I couldn't help myself. "And what edge is that?" He turned back, his face weathered but sharp. "Every species we encounter underestimates us. Always. Without fail. You see our public tech, our civilian infrastructure, and assume that's all we've got. You never imagine we might be hiding something deeper." Dr. Patel took over. "After the Krasari tried their luck in 2089, nasty amphibians with a craving for marine ecosystems, we adopted a new doctrine: appear weak, vulnerable, but develop countermeasures in secret. The drop troopers," I said softly, the puzzle pieces falling into place. "They're not just a combat unit. They're a first strike infiltration force." Reeves grinned. "You're catching on." "Yes, the ODST initiative was designed for one purpose: repel technologically superior invaders before they establish a foothold, board their vessels, seize their assets, and fold their innovations into ours." General Voss added, "And now it's your turn." He nodded toward Patel. "We're particularly interested in your neuroshielding systems." Fascinating work. Korvax erupted, hurling himself forward, only to be slammed by an invisible kinetic barrier between us and the humans. "You'll gain nothing from us," he snarled. "When the Dominion learns of this, they won't," Patel said coolly, cut him off. "Because, like the others, you'll be sent home, with memories carefully rewritten. You recall a failed maneuver, perhaps a solar anomaly, radiation interference to few lost ships. A regrettable but minor event. I stared at her, stunned. You've done this before? 17 major attempts, confirmed Voss, just in the last 100 years. Each one another brick in our technological wall. Reeves tapped her wrist module. General, the council's assembling. They'll want your update on the acquisitions. Voss gave a small nod. We'll resume this later. He turned back to us. In the meantime, I suggest full cooperation with Dr. Patel and her team. Those who assist willingly. Well, let's just say their accommodations tend to be much more comfortable. During their stay, Voss finished. Then, as the group turned to leave, I called out, "Wait." They paused at the threshold. "You said most of us would be returned." I asked, "What about the rest?" Captain Reeves looked over her shoulder. "Some individuals prove more useful in alternative roles," she said. "Those with critical insights, engineering backgrounds, or," her eyes locked with mine, "a flexible way of thinking." And then they were gone. Korvax immediately turned on me, voice low and venomous. "You've said far too much already. Elira, remember your allegiance. We serve the Dominion." But I barely registered his words. My thoughts were racing, fragmented. "Commander," I said slowly, "can't you see what this means? Everything we believed about this sector, it was wrong. Earth isn't a backwater. It's a hidden forge of hybridized power." "It changes nothing," he growled. "Our mission holds. Resist. Stay silent. Await recovery." "There won't be recovery," I replied, "because no one will even know we're missing." 3 days later, I was separated from the other detainees and transported to a new compound. This one didn't resemble a prison. It was clean, spacious, functional, a nexus of labs, testing bays, and diagnostic centers. Dr. Patel greeted me in what looked like a high-end conference lounge, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of a tranquil forested valley. "Welcome to the Adaptive Technologies Research Complex," she said, motioning to a seat. "Or a trek, as we call it. This is where we decode and synthesize off-world systems for planetary defense." "Why am I here?" I asked, though I already had an idea. She smiled and slid a datapad across the table. "Your dossier indicates you specialize in combat algorithms and exobiological mapping. More interesting, though, is your behavior. You think differently than the others." I looked down at the screen. An employment contract, offered to a prisoner of war. "You want me to work for you? Against my own kind?" "Not against," she said gently. "We have no plans to strike your people. Earth's doctrine is defense only. But yes, we want your help adapting your systems to ours. And if I decline, then you'll receive the same cognitive modification as the others and return to your fleet oblivious to what truly happened here." She leaned closer. "But before you decide, there's something I want to show you." Patel guided me through gleaming corridors until we reached a massive launch hangar. Inside sat a vessel unlike anything I'd ever seen. Sleek, asymmetric, alien yet elegant. It was a fusion of technologies, multiple species, including ours, including some components I instantly recognized as Varnathi. "This is a Prometheus Ascendant," Dr. Patel said, pride evident in her voice. "Our first true deep space vessel, built with integrated technologies from 7 distinct alien civilizations. She can outrun a Zentari pursuit-class cruiser, outgun a Krasari war barge," she added, "and her stealth matrix renders her invisible to every known scanning system." "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, genuinely baffled. "Because you need to see the real mission," she replied. "This isn't just about defending Earth anymore. We're preparing to claim our place in the galactic order." She pointed toward a scaffold where a team was working on the ship's core. "Look closer." I narrowed my eyes, and my dermal ridges contracted with disbelief. Non-humans, working side by side with Earth personnel. a Zentari systems tech, 2 Krasari mechanics, and unmistakably, a Varnathi. You're not the first to stay, Patel said quietly. Some understand the vision, collaboration, innovation, survival. Traitors? I muttered, unsettled. We prefer immigrants, came a familiar voice behind me. I turned to see Captain Reeves approaching, hands casually clasped behind her back. Or expatriates, if that sounds better to you. Why would they betray their own kind? I demanded. The Varnathi technician had noticed us and now approached. As he drew near, recognition hit me like a kinetic slug to the chest. Chief Engineer Morin, I breathed. You were declared missing 3 cycles ago. Vanished in the Cygnar expanse. Lieutenant Elira, he said with respectful ridge flutter. No, not missing. Captured during a failed operation. We tried to claim a system flagged as unoccupied. It was an Earth colony. And you chose to stay? I asked, stunned. He shrugged. A very human gesture, I noted with discomfort. At first, I had no choice. Then, I stayed out of curiosity. He turned to look at the Prometheus Ascendant. Now, I stay because this is the most challenging engineering work I've ever done. Blending technologies from species who evolved across wildly different physics, it's groundbreaking. Reeves stepped forward. We didn't ask for this, she said calmly. We didn't seek to be the galaxy's target practice. But instead of responding with conquest, we found another path. Opportunity? I asked, voice sharp. Or assimilation at the barrel of a rifle? She winced slightly, then gave a nod. Fair criticism. First contact often starts with you pointing guns at us. So yes, our responses tend to match. But what comes next, that's what matters. Those who join us, eventually, they aren't prisoners. They become contributors. Equals. Dr. Patel placed a hand gently on my forearm. We're offering you that chance now. Of something truly unprecedented, Lieutenant, Patel said softly. A cross-species alliance, built not on domination but cooperation. Our goal is to develop technology no single civilization could ever create alone. I turned from her to Morin, then to the shining marvel that was a Prometheus Ascendant. How many have accepted this offer? I asked. Roughly 3%, Reeves answered. We don't measure success in numbers, only in quality. We approach those who've demonstrated adaptability. And the rest? I asked. They go home. Reeves said. Their memories, as I explained, are rewritten. Your commander, Korvax? He'll lead the remaining crew back with a perfectly credible story about a navigational error, a miscalculated flare, and a mission cut short. The Dominion will record it as an unfortunate mishap. And more importantly, Earth remains underestimated. My thoughts swirled. I could return to my empire as a loyal officer, never remembering what I'd witnessed. Or I could stay here, essentially becoming a traitor, but gaining access to a level of science and knowledge the Dominion couldn't even fathom. I need time, I said finally. Reeves nodded, offering me a slim communication device. Of course. Take all the time you need. When you're ready, just activate this. That evening, I stood at the wide glass of my quarters, watching unfamiliar stars twinkle above. Somewhere light years away, the Dominion continued to spread, confident in its supremacy, blind to the threat they'd overlooked. Earth, the supposedly backward world, a crucible of alien technology and surviving ambition. The door chimed softly. I permitted entry and Morin stepped inside, settling into the curved seat designed for our physiology. Still torn, he asked gently. Wouldn't you be? I replied, this feels like betrayal. He waved a hand dismissively. Betrayal of what? An empire that sends its officers on pretend wars against safe targets? That sees lesser civilizations as target practice. I couldn't disagree. Our assault had been arrogant, reckless, and, ultimately, foolish. What's it like? I asked instead. Working with them? He leaned forward, eyes bright, challenging, maddening, inspiring. He smiled. Humans are unpredictable. They merge ideas from completely unrelated fields. They leap over logic. Sometimes it seems ridiculous, but it leads to breakthroughs we never imagined. And after what you did, they trust you? He chuckled. Trust here is earned, not granted. But yes, eventually, once they see you're not a threat, they forgive. Surprisingly fast. He hesitated. There's something else I didn't tell you. Something that tipped the scale for me. What? The Dominion isn't the galaxy's only predator. There's another force out there. Far worse. The humans call them the Harvesters. His voice lowered. They don't invade to conquer. They arrive to devour. Entire worlds. Down to the planetary mantle. Nothing is left behind. I furrowed my brow. I've never heard of these. Harvesters. Because they operate far beyond the Dominion's current frontier. Morin replied, his tone turning grim. But they're expanding. Heading this way. He looked toward the window, eyes distant. That ship you saw? It's not just for exploration. It's a prototype, a test bed for a multi-species defense fleet. The implication struck hard. This wasn't just about Earth protecting itself from scavenger races like ours. This was about shielding the entire region of space from something far more sinister. Why tell me this? I asked. Because you need context, he said. This isn't about choosing between blind allegiance to the Dominion or enjoying the luxuries of this place. It's about becoming part of something that might save billions. Mere as crossroads, I absorb his words in silence. I'll need proof, I said, of the Harvesters, of this threat. They'll show you, he said, rising. They showed me. After he left, I remained at the window, staring up as Earth's moon-crested horizon, glowing indifferent, ancient. I thought of Commander Korvax, clutching a pride like a lifeline, too stubborn to see how completely we'd been outmatched. I thought of the Dominion, still pushing outward, still blind Earth's hidden edge and the far more terrifying storm building at the galactic rim. Eventually, I lifted the communicator Captain Reeves had given me and pressed the surface. She answered instantly. Yes. I've made my decision, I said. Her voice gave nothing away. And I want to see your files. Everything you have on these Harvesters. After that, we'll talk about my future. I heard it then, the trace of a smile. I suspected you might come around. Welcome to Project Prometheus, Lieutenant Alira. I haven't agreed to anything yet. I warned. No, she replied, but you're asking the right questions. And out here, that's always the beginning. As I set the device down, the realization hit me like a starburst. The humans hadn't just been collecting alien tech. They'd been collecting wisdom, connections, preparing not for conquest, but survival. Every training exercise, every boarding, every salvage system. They were never the end game. They were the warm-up for this. And for the first time since crossing into the system, I felt something I hadn't since Academy. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could turn this invasion into something else entirely. A shared purpose. Because sometimes the civilization you label as primitive ends up being the one that saves the galaxy. Humans had a saying, I'd heard it before, never judge a book by its cover. And the galaxy? It had been misreading Earth for centuries. Time to turn the page. So, was Earth ever really the underdog? Or were they the architects of a silent resistance the galaxy never saw coming? If this story twisted your expectations, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe for more tales where the hunters become the hunted and the primitives rewrite the rules.